Today concludes our 4-week series of the first chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. The thing itself, let's see, I didn't write them down for myself. The thing itself, the way it works, well, that
What it does.
what it does is 3, and how to use it. Thank you. Good memory there. I'll keep you in the front row. With signs. So, you just gave us the perfect example of exactly what I'm going to say first. And that is that I would like to compliment each and every one of you on the business you are already doing with this topic, how to use it. How to use it. And so each of you uses it, uses God, uses the power of the presence of love and the power of law in a very unique way and a beautiful way. And each of us probably already knows which ways in our life we use it really well and which ways we are still a work in art. And so I invite you to think about things like relationships with people, maybe family, friends, co-workers, employees, employers, one another. And what of those ways, as Bibi said so beautifully in her reading today, are working well? Because we can learn a lot from that which works well in our life. Maybe finances is your thing. Maybe you're really, really good at attracting wealth, at realizing your abundance, realizing that all that God is and all that God has already is yours. Or health. Maybe as soon as you notice any little ache or pain, you're able to negate it. And next thing you know, it's just not there. Or situations. Going along in life beautifully, and then you start to ride that big wave. Situation comes up, and you're riding that wave, but something inside you is telling you, you've got this. You're great at this. Relax and ride and enjoy the wave. But for some of us, when those situations come up, we go under. Some of us are really good at that. Maybe our workplace. Maybe that's your gold. That's where you really excel at using the laws to accomplish and be all that you want to be in that space. And for some people, it's daily living. Their day-to-day living is just filled with the giving and receiving in perfect balance of life to itself. They wake up happy and they go to bed happy. And everything in between is just filled with happiness. So hopefully by now you have thought about what it is that you're really good at, what idea, what topic, what subject area you are really good at using this thing called life in a magnificent way. And that is what I'm complimenting you for. Because we come together, and I can tell you that this week I treated for every face in here, I treated knowing, including you and me, I treated knowing that those areas that we're using the power of the law well continues abundantly, richly. and that those places that we are each working on, whether it's been shared in treatment or whether you just keep it in the closet, I was knowing for you, with you, that it is demonstrating perfectly. Why? Because in truth it already is. It is just for us to accept it. I want to recognize that sometimes I think we come to church and it's a happy time and we go around and hug one another and we smile at one another and we hold consciousness for good for one another, and then we think we leave and we're somebody different. And I want to let you know that's never true. The person that you come to church as is the real you. That person that you bring to church every Sunday is your real self. It is your authentic, genuine way of living. The other stuff is just that stuff, and accepting it can help us learn to shift it. So I invite you to take one of the things, because maybe you were saying, I'm good at that, and I'm good at that, and I'm good at that. Wonderful. I invite you to take one of them, your favorite one maybe, and consider for just a moment what it is that you think about whenever that topic comes up. Like say, for example, people. Say you're really good at people relationships. Think about that and think about what you think about whenever you hear, how good are you at people relationships, or finances, or health, or situations, or day-to-day living, whatever it may be. What is it that you think about whenever that subject comes up, that topic? And beyond thinking, what words you think, what ideas come to mind, what do you feel in those moments? When you think to yourself, oh, I'm really good at attracting money. I know all God has is plentiful and abundant, and it's me. I'm it. What are you feeling in those moments? And so now I'm going to tell you that you now know the exact recipe to further any progress toward using it well in all the other areas. It's not any different than that. Whatever it is that you're thinking and accepting and embracing in that oneness to achieve in one area and to feel good, to feel freedom, to feel exhilarated, to feel confident. That's what you want for all those other areas. So let's take a deeper look at it.
Ernest Holmes starts this chapter out with saying, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. Exactly what Deborah was talking about. We love to talk about this thing called science of mind and this whole principle and all these principles and how they work and so on. But do we actually practice them in our everyday life? What he's saying is that we love the theory of our teaching, but we fail to put it to use in our lives. We don't take advantage of conscious application. We don't really practice the principles. We just talk about them a lot, and we learn about them a lot. We learn them, but we don't do them quite often. That reminds me of this phrase that many a false step is made by standing still. We know what to do, we know where to go, but we just don't. There's another saying similar to that, and it is that if you don't choose, the universe will make the choice for you. That is not a science of mind idea, by the way, because if you don't choose, you are making a choice, and you are choosing to not make a choice. The universe does not impose its will upon you. You impose your ideas upon the universe and it responds accordingly. So that's a science of mind idea. So that idea that the universe will choose for you is not really true. You know, but one thing we don't really have any choice in is whether or not we use the thing and how it works, how we use it, the power of the universe, the creative power of the universe. We really don't have any power, any choice in whether we use it or not. If you think, you're using it. And if you don't want to use it, just don't think. Now, Deborah challenged you to think about something and have feelings around something. I'm going to challenge you to just take a moment and don't think. How's that working for you? If you're like me, the more I think about not thinking, the more things come up. No, am I supposed to be thinking about not thinking or not thinking about thinking? Because I'm thinking about not thinking, and so therefore I shouldn't be thinking about that. It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? It's a paradox, paradox. People's heard of thoughts and paradox. Okay, it's like an answer without, it's a question without an answer. It's a riddle without an answer. And I think my mind goes down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, by trying not to think, I'm thinking twice as fast, or even more. It's a paradox, and therefore my mind is in a quagmire, like Deborah's cord when she's trying to pull it. It's all twisted up and it's not making any sense because I'm trying to not do something that's natural. The truth is, we are always living in a realm of creative possibility. And whenever we think, we're tapping into that creative possibility, and we are being creative at every single moment in our lives. We may not be aware of it, but we are. We have a choice in whether we use our thoughts for good or our thoughts for our own detriment. We use it consciously or unconsciously, our thoughts. Remember that 90% of our thought is unconscious thought, and that 90% is controlling the majority of the conditions in your life. Ernest Holmes says there's power in the universe greater than we are, and we can use it. I think if Ernest Holmes thought about that a little more, he'd probably say, there's a power in the universe greater than we are, and we are always using it. We may not like the results, and we may not think we're using it, but we are. Hence, my favorite Ernest Holmes quote, of all of his wonderful quotes, if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then, according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. Now, is that a paradox? Actually, if you break it down and look at it, it's not really a paradox. It comes to a final conclusion. And the word belief really gives the key to the whole idea. What we believe in actually comes into fruition in our thoughts. If we believe it will, or we believe it will not, it will. It's all about what you're thinking about. So we can use that principle and change our thinking to change our life, or we can follow Willie Nelson's advice and keep doing it wrong till we like it that way. I choose not to go in that direction. I prefer what Emerson said, do not be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams. Oh, you got to have a dream. You got to have some picture of what you want to experience in your life, or the 90% of your thinking in the background is going to take over and keep you going in the same direction you've always gone. If you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. The 90% of your conscious thoughts are going to be controlling your life. When you try not to think, notice that your mind doesn't stop. There are unconscious things going on coming to the fore because you refuse to think consciously, so therefore your unconscious thoughts are going to take over. And they will control your life. If you choose not to make a decision, your own mind will choose for you. Those 90% of your thoughts will take over. Dennis Merritt Jones says, the only thing required for birds to soar to freedom beyond the confines of an enclosed little nest is a willingness to come to the edge of everything they have ever known and lean into the mystery. And so it is with us. We come to the edge of everything we've ever known and everything we know within our conscious awareness, which is our unconscious thoughts, beliefs, and we lean into the unknown, we're able to expand into a new life experience. It's that simple. That's how to use it. That's how to use the science of mind. The Dalai Lama says, when you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. And I believe the reason you're going to learn peace and joy is because you have actually realized your dream. And that's a moment of peace and joy. Practicing the principles isn't trying to make things happen. I tell my students when I'm teaching them, when you go to practice, you are putting into practice all the things you have learned. You're not doing things over and over and over again until you get it right. You are putting into practice all that you have learned, enabling you to get the results that you wish to see. It's putting the teaching into practice. It's practicing the presence by implementing the teaching and applying it to everyday life. How good are you at actually doing that? That's what Deborah was talking about. Find that place that you know it's happening in your life, see how that's happening and how it's working by your thought processes, your belief systems, and now apply it to other areas where things maybe aren't working so great. You're honing your skills at living the science of mind. You're walking the walk, not just philosophizing. I love the classes that we have here because it gives us an opportunity to discuss things in great detail and break them all down and philosophize. And then when we leave this place from the class, the challenge is to actually put it to practice, to actually use it, to actually make a difference in our lives. So we're learning all these principles and ideas, but we're not just leaving here holding them in thought, we're actually applying them to life. Using the knowledge and the intelligence and the wisdom in how to use this teaching, these principles. We don't study to reveal more secrets, we study to constantly expand our perspective and awaken to our level of receptivity, or reception, or our ability to receive. And as, by the way, when we are receiving, we're opening ourselves not to what is coming to us, but what is revealing through us. Because you know that we are the essence of all that is in human form. So therefore we use it by being it.
Thank you. So there was a wonderful story in the Science of Mind magazine this month that that validates exactly what to do for each one of us. It was the dailies were written by Reverend Christine Green, and in them she talks about how she had a very rough week. It was filled with lots of tragic discussions with loved ones who were sharing pain and loss and grief, and it wasn't her favorite week of the year. And that very day she had to go out and grocery shop so she'd have some food to eat. And when she returned back home, her neighbor came running over and said, "I was at my Bible study class, and while I was there, we were talking about this question, and I just need you to answer it for me." And the question was, do you think we are in the end of times? Do you think we are in the end of times? Well, in Science of Mind, we're already thinking there is no time in God, right? But there is for us humans. And so let's look at what she had to say. She said that she began taking her groceries out and that she stalled while she could do it so that she could have some think time. There's step number one. So pick up on these fine points along the way. Step number one, think time, self-think time before we respond or react. She said that she shook off inwardly and took a breath, and then she knew that she needed to be centered in her response. She affirmed for herself what she knows without a doubt, and that was, there is a power and presence for good in the world. I refuse to dwell on appearances, but stand in the true knowing of the universal power that is love. And then she said she remembered a quote that Ernest Holmes had stated, and most of us have gotten really good at remembering his quotes to use in the moment. And he said, in order to have faith, we must have a conviction that all is well. In order to keep faith, we must allow nothing to enter our thought which will weaken our conviction. And so now she says, after giving her mind over to these thoughts and silently centering herself, she was ready to respond. And so she said, what I believe is happening. And the friend said, oh, never mind, my ride's here. I'll see you later, thanks. And took off. She tells the story that she laughed right out loud because the universe had once again presented to her, teaching her the lesson. What to do when times get rough. Go within and eliminate all doubt and know that song we sang together earlier. There is only God. God is all that is. God is the power and presence that always is and always will be. And God is always right where you are. So as you go forward this day, I wish you a happy knowingness of good in your life and a willingness to embrace how to use it for you. And so it is.